High school bullies are a special kind of cruel, the kind who laugh the loudest, mock the softest targets, and walk away untouched because someone important always protects them. Teachers look away, principals make excuses, and the victims learn to swallow fear in silence. But not this time. The quiet farm girl was halfway down the staircase when the boys behind her decided to have some fun. A sharp shove between her shoulders sent her forward, her backpack jerking off her arms. And just before she tumbled down the steps, a firm hand caught the strap. Jasonstatham S. And the boys had no idea what they had just unleashed. Before we continue, thank you so much for being here and supporting these stories. It truly means more than you know. If you enjoy emotional, powerful moments where justice finds the people who deserve it, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Your support helps us bring more of these meaningful stories to life every single day. All right, let's get back to it. Highland Ridge High was the kind of school that looked peaceful from the outside: wide lawns, old brick walls, fresh paint on the doors. But anyone who spent more than a week inside knew the truth. It wasn't peaceful. It was political. It ran on whispered alliances, family names, legacies, and the kinds of invisible rules nobody ever said out loud but everyone understood. The worst rule of all: bullies don't get in trouble. The people they hurt do. That was something the quiet farm girl, Emma Rose Miller, had learned long before the day everything snapped. Emma walked these halls like she was made of glass, not because she was fragile, but because everyone treated her like she didn't belong. She was small, shy, with freckles dusting her cheeks and calluses on her fingers from morning chores on her family's struggling farm. Her backpack was always heavy, her boots always muddy, and her voice always soft. Softness in Highland Ridge was an invitation. Most mornings she kept her head down and hurried through the main hallway. She did the same today, hugging her notebook to her chest, shoulders tucked inward, boots tapping a quick rhythm against the tile floor. She'd already had a rough morning: 2 hours of feeding livestock before sunrise, followed by a scolding from her grandmother for being late, followed by forgetting her lunch on the counter. She didn't need trouble today. But trouble didn't need her permission. At the top of the old wooden staircase, the one everyone complained the school should have replaced years ago, stood Derek Hunter and his 2 shadows, Logan and Bryce. They'd been scanning the hallway, leaning against the railing, laughing at something on Bryce's phone. They weren't laughing now. Derek saw Emma first. His smirk spread slow across his face like something crawling. "There she is," he muttered, nudging Logan. "Little Miss Tractor Boots." Logan chuckled. "Look at her. She walks like she's scared of her own shadow." Bryce snorted, pushing off the railing. "Bet she cries if we breathe too loud." Emma heard every word, she always did, but she pretended she didn't. She lowered her gaze and moved toward the stairs with quiet urgency. "Just make it to class. Don't stop. Don't react. Don't give them anything." She repeated that to herself every day. But today they wanted something. They stepped onto the stairs behind her, their boots thudding on the old wood with too much speed, too much excitement, too much hunger. She could smell their cologne, too strong, too expensive, and feel their laughter hit the back of her neck. She moved faster. Not fast enough. Bryce reached out and tugged lightly on her braid. Not hard, just enough to make her flinch. "Were you rushing off to farm mouse?" he mocked. "Got cows to milk," Logan said. "Or do you do that before school?" Bryce added. Derek laughed softly, the kind of laugh a wolf makes right before it chooses its prey. Emma tried to ignore them. She tightened her grip on the railing, stepping down carefully. The staircase creaked under her boots. She hated this staircase, always had. Too narrow, too steep, too old. She took another step. And that's when Derek said it. "Hey, think fast." She didn't even have time to turn. A shove, sharp, sudden, aimed between her shoulder blades, sent her forward. Her foot slipped off the next step. Her backpack yanked to the side. Her notebook flew from her arms. The railing escaped her grip. Her stomach lurched. The world tilted. The boys laughed. Time slowed. Emma felt her body falling forward, the empty space of the staircase yawning beneath her. She knew what came next: cracked ribs, a broken wrist, maybe worse. She knew that pain. She knew hospital bills her family couldn't afford. She knew the humiliation of everyone watching her fall. But then, her fall stopped. Not like gravity easing. Not like luck intervening. Like someone physically halted the world. A strong hand gripped the back strap of her backpack, pulling upward with steady force before her feet even lost contact with the step. Her body snapped back into balance. Her boots found the stair edge again. And a voice, calm, low, firm, cut through the hallway. "Easy, I've got you." Emma froze. No one talked like that here. No one sounded calm here. No one sounded safe here. She turned her head slowly. Behind her, one step up, standing solidly like he owned the ground beneath him, was a man she had never seen before. Broad shoulders under a simple jacket. Dark eyes that noticed everything. A face that looked carved from resolve in quiet storms. Jasonstatham. He didn't look angry. He didn't look shocked. He didn't look confused. He looked like a man who'd already seen exactly what happened, every detail, every smirk, every shove. And he looked like someone who'd decided, quietly and irrevocably, that he wouldn't allow it to continue. Emma's breath trembled. Thank you." His grip loosened gently, helping steady her fully before letting go. "You all right?" he asked, voice low. She nodded, though she wasn't sure she was. But behind them, the boys' laughter died instantly. Logan went pale. Bryce stopped grinning. Derek's smirk collapsed into something tight and nervous. Because they recognized Jasonstatham. And they knew who he'd been staring at. Derek tried to recover some of his swagger. "Hey man, don't get involved. She just tripped." Jason's head turned slowly, calmly toward the boys. "Is that what happened?" he asked. His tone wasn't sarcastic. Not mocking. Not even challenging. Just quiet, dangerous in its quiet. None of the boys answered. Jason stepped down one stair, positioning himself now between Emma and the bullies, not dramatically, not threateningly, simply placing himself where he needed to be. His presence alone shifted something in the air. Students walking by slowed down. Some whispered. A few froze entirely. The hallway felt different now, not because of his fame, but because of the gravity he carried with him. Because the boy's usual power suddenly looked small, weak, embarrassing. Jason kept his eyes on them, his voice steady. "You shoved her." Derek tried to deny it. "No, I." "You shoved her," Jason repeated, not louder, just truer. "I watched you." Silence clocked the boys in the face. Logan's mouth opened, closed, open again. "Look, we were just." "Just what?" Jason asked. His voice still wasn't raised, but something in the way he said those two words made Logan flinch. Bryce cleared his throat. "It was a joke." Jason blinked once slowly. That wasn't a joke. That was three boys entertaining themselves by hurting someone quieter than them. Emma felt her cheeks burn. She stared at the stairs, wishing she could disappear. Jason didn't let her shrink away. Instead, he spoke directly to the boys again. "You owe her an apology." Derek scoffed, but the sound had no strength behind it. "Dude, it was an accident." Jason tilted his head slightly. "Did she fall?" he asked. Derek hesitated. "No." "Did you put your hands on her?" "Maybe." "Not maybe," Jason said. "Yes or no." Emma had never heard anyone talk like that, direct, controlled, honest in a way that forced honesty back. Derek swallowed. "Yes." Jason took one small step toward him. "And you think that's a joke?" The boys looked at each other, suddenly exposed. Their power evaporated. Derek's face reddened. Logan kicked the floor. Bryce's shoulders sagged. Jason didn't insult them. He didn't threaten them. He didn't raise his voice even once. He didn't have to. He simply stood there, a quiet wall between cruelty and the girl who'd endured it too often. Emma whispered, "I didn't mean to cause trouble." Jason turned to her slightly, his voice softening. "You didn't cause anything." And the way he said it, steady, certain, made her eyes sting unexpectedly. Students around them watched with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Nobody had ever stood up to Derek and his crew. Teachers avoided them. Kids feared them. The principal was Derek's uncle, so nothing ever happened. But now, everything had changed. Jason finally looked back at the boys one last time. "You're going to walk away," he said quietly, "and you're going to rethink who you want to be." His tone wasn't threatening. It was worse. It was disappointed, and that hit harder than anger ever could. The boys stepped back immediately. Derek muttered something like an apology, though the words came out tangled and rushed. Logan shoved his hands in his pockets. Bryce stared at the floor like it might swallow him. They retreated up the stairs, their footsteps stiff and uneven. Jason waited until they were gone before turning back to Emma. "You okay to keep walking?" he asked gently. She nodded, though her legs still shook. Yes, I think so." He extended a hand toward her notebook lying on the step below. She picked it up with trembling fingers. Jason walked with her the rest of the way down the stairs, not hovering, not crowding, just nearby enough that she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. "Safe." When they reached the bottom, he paused. "You shouldn't have to deal with that alone," he said. Emma swallowed. "I do every day." He shook his head gently, jaw tightening. "Not anymore." She didn't know what that meant. She didn't know who he was to her. She didn't know why he cared. All she knew was that when she looked back toward the staircase, the one where she'd almost fallen, she wasn't afraid anymore. Jasonstatham had changed something. Not just the fall. Not just the moment. He had changed everything. Jason didn't linger at the bottom of the staircase after Emma left. He watched her walk down the hallway, hugging her notebook tight, shoulders still trembling slightly, until she disappeared around the corner. Only then did he exhale, the tension in his jaw easing just enough for breath to feel normal again. He hadn't come here for this. He hadn't planned on stepping into the mess of some small-town high school. But the moment he saw her fall forward on that staircase, something old and familiar woke up inside him, something protective, something stern, something unwilling to let cruelty walk away unchallenged. He needed a moment to think, so he moved toward a quiet alcove near the school office, hands resting casually in his jacket pockets. Students whispered as they passed, not because he was famous, but because there was something about him that didn't quite fit the typical visitor profile. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. He didn't try to look friendly. He wasn't here to be liked. But he did pay attention. And he noticed the looks the kids gave the staircase, the way they avoided Derek and his gang like they were an electric fence. He noticed teachers glance up, see trouble, and then immediately look away, the practiced avoidance of people who'd already decided nothing could be done. He shook his head softly. They could do something. They just didn't want the trouble. He was used to that. The world was full of people who ignored wrong because addressing it meant work, conflict, or consequences. But consequences were exactly the point. He waited for the bell to ring and watched the stampede of students flood into their classrooms. The noise faded, the hallway emptied, and silence settled into the old building. Then Jason moved. He walked back up the staircase slowly, letting his palm glide along the banister. The wood was rough, splintered in places. Cheap repairs had been slapped on over the years, but it was still rickety, dangerous even without bullies. He paused in the middle, looking down, imagining how far Emma would have fallen. His jaw tightened. Then he reached the top landing and found exactly what he expected. Derek and his crew. All three boys were huddled near the lockers, whispering in agitated bursts. Derek kept looking toward the stairs, Logan kept pacing, and Bryce looked like he might pass out. The moment they spotted Jason, they froze like someone had cut their strings. Derek swallowed hard. "Look, man, we said sorry." "No," Jason said. His voice wasn't angry, it was worse, calm. "You didn't." Logan stepped back. "We okay then, we're sorry." Jason gave a slight nod, not in acceptance, but in acknowledgement of the attempt. "You weren't thinking," he said. "You didn't consider where she would have landed. You didn't think about the damage you could have caused." Derek shut his eyes. "We weren't gonna really hurt her." "You already did," Jason replied quietly. "More than you know." Bryce rubbed the back of his neck, looking cornered. "So what now? You gonna tell the principal?" Jason's eyes flicked to him, and Bryce stilled. "No," Jason said. "I'm going to talk to her." Logan blinked. "To who?" Jason didn't answer. The boys watched him walk past them toward the main hallway. Derek hesitated before calling out. "So that's it." Jason paused without turning. "No, that's not it." And the weight of those 7 words hit them harder than any shout could. Jason walked away, leaving the boys pale and speechless. He could have stormed into the principal's office. He could have demanded punishment, suspension, expulsion. But quick punishment wasn't real justice. Real justice corrected behavior, it shook people awake, made them look inward, made them understand the cost of what they'd done. And right now, only one person in this building mattered more than consequences. Emma. Jason found her after 3rd period. She was sitting alone on a bench near the courtyard, flipping her notebook open and closed like she couldn't decide whether to study or cry. He approached quietly. "Mind if I sit?" he asked. She jumped a little, then nodded, sure. Jason sat on the opposite end of the bench, giving her space. She appreciated that he could see it in her shoulders. "You okay?" he asked. She hesitated. "I think so." "You're shaking." She hid her hands under her notebook. "I'm fine, I'm used to it." He turned, eyebrows lifting slightly. "Used to what?" Her eyes glossed. She looked down at her boots. "They don't like me very much." "That doesn't answer my question." She swallowed hard. And then whispered, "They do that a lot." Jason felt something sharp lodge under his ribs, not anger but sorrow. "Why?" he asked gently. Emma shrugged. "I don't fit in, I smell like hay sometimes. My clothes aren't new, my family, we don't have much, and the principal is Derek's uncle, so no one stops them," Jason finished for her. She nodded. Jason looked away for a moment, scanning the courtyard. A teacher standing by the doors avoided eye contact the second he glanced her way. A group of students whispered behind their hands as they peeked toward Emma. This wasn't a one-time incident. It was a culture. And culture doesn't fix itself. He turned back to Emma. "Your grandmother here to pick you up later." Emma nodded. "She's old, so I walked to the bus stop instead." Jason exhaled slowly. "Not today." Emma blinked. "What do you mean?" "You're not walking home alone," he said. "Not until I'm sure you're safe." She looked stunned. You don't have to do that." "Yes," he said softly, "I do." Her eyes filled again, but this time not from fear. From relief. A kind she hadn't felt in a long, long time. The rest of the school day passed differently. Word traveled. When Derek and his 2 shadows walked down the hall, students moved aside, not out of fear this time, but out of judgment. Something had shifted. Their power had cracked. At lunch, Emma sat at a small table by herself. Jason stood a few yards away, leaning casually against a pillar, pretending not to watch her. He didn't hover. He didn't smother. He was simply present. And his presence alone changed everything. Kids who normally snickered stayed silent. Kids who normally pointed looked away. Kids who normally whispered suddenly found something more interesting on their phones. Near the end of lunch, Emma slipped away to the bathroom to wash her face. Jason remained near the cafeteria doors, arms folded loosely over his chest. That's when he overheard it. Derek's voice. Low, frustrated, defensive. "She's gonna tell on us, bro, or he is." Logan hissed, "Shut up, man, he's right over there." Jason kept his gaze forward, pretending not to hear. Bryce muttered, "If he talks to the principal, we're screwed." "He won't," Derek said. "Did you see him? He's like calm, too calm." Logan swallowed. "That's the scary part." Derek kicked a locker. "We gotta fix this, today, before." Jason stepped forward slightly. The boys went silent. He didn't look at them. He didn't need to. They backed away automatically. When school ended, Emma found Jason waiting by the front entrance. She held her backpack straps like they were anchors. "You really don't have to walk with me," she said softly. "You don't have to be alone," Jason replied just as softly. They stepped out into the cool afternoon breeze. The air smelled like cut grass and warm asphalt. Students scattered in every direction, cars honking, buses hissing, kids yelling across the parking lot. Emma walked quietly beside him, cautious but comforted. Halfway down the sidewalk, Jason noticed her rubbing her shoulder, the same shoulder Derek had shoved. "You hurt?" he asked. "A little," she admitted. "I'm used to it." He slowed his pace without her asking. "That's not something you should ever be used to." They walked the rest of the way in silence, peaceful silence, until they reached the small bus stop near the edge of town. A rusty bench sat under a crooked metal sign. A little wooden box filled with old books hung beside it, part of the town's Take a Book, Leave a Book initiative. Emma sat carefully on the bench. Jason stood beside her, keeping an eye on the road. She glanced up at him. "Why are you doing this?" Jason looked down at her. "Because someone should have done it sooner." Her breath hitched. Then she whispered, "Thank you." He nodded once firmly. The bus arrived with a rumble, but before Emma could stand, Jason noticed something across the street. Derek, Logan, Bryce. They weren't laughing this time. They weren't smirking. They weren't swaggering. They were watching. Nervous. Jason placed a hand gently on Emma's backpack strap, the same strap he'd grabbed on the stairs. "Stay seated," he said quietly. She did. Jason stepped forward, standing between her and the boys across the street. Derek flinched. Jason didn't shout. Didn't approach. Didn't gesture. He simply looked at them. A long, steady, unblinking stare. A stare that said, "Enough. It's over. You will not touch her again." Derek dropped his gaze first. Bryce turned away. Logan mumbled something and nudged Derek to leave. They disappeared around a corner without a single word. Emma watched from the bench, eyes wide. Did they go? "They won't bother you again," Jason said. "How do you know?" she whispered. Jason turned back to her, softening. "Because they finally saw themselves. That's all most bullies need. Someone to hold up a mirror and make them face what they've become." Emma's eyes filled once more, but this time they didn't fall. She stood clutching her backpack. Will you be around tomorrow?" Jason considered her gently. "Do you want me to?" She nodded hard. "Then I'll be here." The bus doors opened with a squeak. Emma climbed on, pausing at the top step. "Jason." "Yeah." She wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. "You saved me." Jason shook his head. "No," he said softly. "I just made sure you didn't fall. You did the hard part, you kept going." She gave him one last small smile, then disappeared onto the bus. The doors closed. The bus pulled away, and the wind carried the last bit of dust off the road. Jason watched until the bus vanished around the bend. Only then did he put his hands in his jacket pockets and exhale slowly. He'd been passing through town. He wasn't supposed to stay long. But he knew now he would stay as long as Emma needed him. Some fights aren't loud. Some aren't cinematic. Some don't involve fists or threats. Some are quiet. The kind fought on staircases and sidewalks. The kind that saved someone's life without drawing blood. The kind that changed the course of a young girl's future with a single steady hand. Jason walked down the road, the fading sun casting a long shadow behind him. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. He'd already set things right. And tomorrow, he'd do it again.